Spinning for me is making possibilities. What most people do is using ready-made fabrics or making the fabric, weaving it with ready-made yarns. And what I wanted to do is make my own yarn and then use that yarn in projects because it's more personal. I started with normal wool, and then I found out that it was more interesting to make a blend with non-traditional fiber. The yellow stuff is rope, which you can buy at the Action, which is a very cheap kind of Euro store. When you take the core out, it's different in each rope. This one has white, and some are glittery. They use waste from the textile industry, and if you take the core out, then you can easily unravel the rope itself. I wanted to take a normal product, a household product, to see in how much ways I could use the same material, the same rope, to make textiles with it, which are attractive to see and to look at, and you want to touch it, which is not the case with the rope itself. And there are samples that are soft, and that was for me very unexpected.
So I've been making a big net, which is basically just a big assembly of a lot of knots. The idea was to make something in relation to an architectural space that is very planned and strict. And I wanted to make something that is more organic and growing and more like a creature than a building. And then after I made this, I tried to go back to what the net actually is, which is a compilation of knots and holes, and made it into this poster, which is again kind of a net in itself.
This project started with the question of making a performance in a small bookstore in the center of Amsterdam. I started to look at books and what people expect from it, and to play with these expectations. To use the form of a book, but then if you open it, there's something happening what you don't really expect. A book is made out of a sheet of paper, which is folded. So I started to play with this square and these 16 pages. How many different forms can you make out of this? And this is the tryout for a t-shirt. The shoulders are here. So this is the sleeve. And just by folding this piece on top of this one, you have a closed sleeve. I did research on a lot of different materials, and I thought maybe it's interesting to use the laser cutter because it's really practical to already cut out the folding lines, but also immediately kind of a print. What I have now are 3 different models which you can wear. They are all made out of the same square, and what I try to do now to use different thickness of material. So this is a really thin one, which you wear as a t-shirt. The pants is in the middle, like the thickness of a normal jeans. And then you have the jacket, which is really like stiff. And that's also like you cover your body with it.
Nederland aanwezig. Irlanda, Marokko. Portugal, presente.
Deutschland, anwesend.
Peru, presente.
Italia, presente. England, present. Danmark til stede.
Sverige repræsenterer.
Slovakia representerer. Nederland aanwezig. Bosnië-Herzegovina. Ons geduld. Portugal presente. Slovenska prítomná. België aanwezig. Sverige nabij. Nederland aanwezig.
Tunis, Hagen.
México presente. Nederland aanwezig. Nederland aanwezig. Nederland aanwezig.
Deutschland, anwesend.
Island kommen.
Россия присутствует.
Ons geduld. Nederland aanwezig. Nederland present. Brazilië присутствует. Irlanda, Marok. Turkije, Buda. Nederland aanwezig. USA present. Polska obecna. Danmark til stede. Bulgaria present. Alaba, Baron. Nippon, imasu. Suomi, läsnä. 中国在这里。
So here I try to illustrate my thoughts, and I wrote down some words I find important. For example, here personal feelings, and I connected very much to this work I made. It's about a coat that should make the one who wears it feel heavy and sad. I'm also busy with value. I want to have a revaluation for things that are not money related. For example, a moment, and that again is related to something very personal. So a moment which I share with a person maybe can be also an artwork, and how is this then related to art and the art market. In 2 years' time, I see myself working in a space. The space should be like my living room, but then public. And I want to invite everyone there and have discussions, and I want to materialize discussions and questions people arise into something touchable, something physical.
I started out with researching the Passerie carpet, which is the oldest carpet ever found in the world. And because I don't know any of the symbolic work or stories behind it, I decided to look at the visual aspect. So I looked at the directions in the carpet, which I found really interesting. The movement of the animals. Here you see the horses going in one direction and the deers going in an opposite direction. And it really made me think of horseback riding. So that's how I made a switch to these patterns, which are dressage patterns that are written when you do figure riding. So then I decided to go to the horseback riding school, and I went there with a really open mind to do research. And one day I stumbled upon these horse blankets, which are basically a layer in between the saddle and the horse itself. And what I really liked about it is the human presence of the human body in the blankets, because you really obviously see the human body in here, the legs and the behind. And then I found out that there's a really nice, unique, in common relationship between horses and humans. And that's that they have the ability to sweat through their whole entire body to cool down. So humans and horses are actually the only creatures on Earth who do that. So I started looking for a way to make the sweat patterns of the humans visible in the textile. So I decided to use these shirts, which are commonly used as underclothing, just like the horse blankets. And I used tea bags that are filled with pigment which react to water. So when I put these shirts on humans, you will actually start to see the sweat patterns that they make in the shirts. So I chose 12 people who wanted to play soccer, and only after the game, when they put off their shirts and gave them back to me, I could see the patterns that they've made. So these are the results. I cut them open and I trimmed them so that they really become objects instead of clothing. So you also get the same patterns over and over again, like in the horse blankets. But every time they vary depending on how much the person sweats that has worn the shirt.
It all started with a small piece of textile and a word, the Maisons Noires, the black houses. So in a sense, this project is a search for a literal translation of the map of a house. So it's a fold out, which can always be folded back. And this map, it became a research and a starting point for a way to see if the smallest house could be the biggest garment, or if the biggest garment could be the smallest possible house. There's always the struggle of how all this research you transform it into this real garment. Like, will it something be wearable, or is it just an interpretation? So I started making t-shirts with the exact shape of the house. You can still fold it back, but then it's adapted to the body. But by the way the pattern moves, it never really fits. It always is a sense of awkwardness. So there's always this sense of, yeah, you know you're wearing a house. And it fits you in a sense, but also it doesn't fit. You need a bigger scale. So it's a lot about this, a sense for scale.